Hi, everyone. I promised that I would come and tell you about some lighting options. You should always set up your device that's going to be filming to be a little bit higher than you, looking down. This is on a bit of a box. We talked about that already. If you have a source of natural light in your room, the best thing to do is to have your device face it or to have it be on the side of you. You should never have the natural light behind you because it can create a shadow. And depending on how the sun moves during your meeting or interview, it might actually shadow over your whole face for a little while and make it hard for the interviewer to see you. So I'm here in my dining room where we do have a good source of natural light. It's on this side. And I have one of our overhead lights going. You have to be careful with overhead lighting that you try your setup and you don't see it causing a glare in the background or looking funny in the background or coming out of your head or anything like that. That's apt to be very distracting for the other person. I have one of our overhead lights on now, and this is probably fine. If I were to have an interview or something today and it's this amount of light outside and I'm sitting in this room, it's probably sufficient. But because the light can vary, because sometimes you have to do something like this at night when there's no natural light, because sometimes it's raining, I have investigated several kinds of lighting, and I'd be happy to share that information with you. So one of the things, if you go on Amazon, all of this actually must qualify as essential merchandise because I was able to get it delivered pretty fast. You can find all of these things on Amazon. The first one that I invested in is called the ring light. I would get, if you're getting it, one that has a colored screen on it because ring lights tend to be very, very bright and there's a lot of glare if it's just white. So here is as bright as it goes, which is really too bright for the amount of natural light that I have in the room and the overhead. But on a really cloudy day or in the dark, it might be fine. And you would also want it to be a bit in front of you, and you'd want to, just like you check your setup and everything else, you'd want to check and make sure that's the amount of light that you'd like to have for that particular interview or conference call or whatever. So that's called a ring light. That was the first piece of lighting I invested in, and I didn't really know any better, so I got the one that everybody recommended, and it's on a stand, on a tripod. It's a bit tall and the tripod bottom is a bit wide. So for me, it's a little bit hard to get up and down the stairs or from room to room. And in our house, we've got two kids homeschooling. My husband's a lawyer and he's on a lot of Zoom and conference calls. So I'm not always working in the same room for the whole day. And it became a little bit hard to move this around. I guess if you were handier than I am, maybe you would just disassemble it and that wouldn't be so much of an issue. So that's one thing to consider. And we also have the option of, there's a little clip ring light. It comes just like this, and it actually plugs right into your computer or iPad or other device, and you can just press the button. So you clip it right onto your screen. It gives you enough light probably for most of the things you're going to do. If it was completely dark in here, it might not be quite enough, but it actually has two other brighter settings. So that amount of light is probably going to be the amount of light that you ordinarily need. It does create a little bit of a glare, so not everybody loves it. This one is all white. And as I said, the other ring light that I have has that colored screen, which is supposed to cut down on glare. The other option is, this is called a halogen softbox, and it's actually, it creates a much softer light. And I ordered the desktop version, so it's very light and very portable, and it's very easy to bring from room to room. And the reason that it's soft is it actually has some white fabric over a light bulb, and it keeps it very soft and doesn't create a glare. So I have one on each side of me pointing to the center. I don't have them turned on now, but if it were darker and I needed some light, that's a really nice source of light. And they were really much easier to put together than I thought. I think that's actually the best lighting that I ended up purchasing. The only drawback to it is both the ring light and the halogen softbox lighting have to be plugged in. So wherever you are, you have to have an outlet that's handy, and the cord has to be long enough. I guess you can get an extension cord or something like that. But this is why we talked about checking your setup ahead of time. You want to make sure that you sit down in front and you check that GoToMeeting with video on, and you check and make sure there's no glare in the back, there's no shadow on your face, it's not too dark to see you, you know how to plug in the light if you need it, you have, whatever it is that you think you're going to use during that interview, you should have tried it in advance, and it should be available to you and ready to use right then. So that's my best tip for lighting. We'll put the actual ones that I've demonstrated into the comments, so that if you want to go on Amazon and find the ones that I purchased, they weren't very expensive. I know that they were available on Amazon as recently as days ago. But really, any additional source of light that you think would work in your workspace or your home environment is going to be fine. Nobody's expecting you to have a professional photography studio. They just want to be able to see you enough so that it feels like you're in the room. So that is what we can say about lighting for today. I'm going to come back and tell you about augmenting your sound next. So hopefully we'll see you soon.